I have to say, Lynn, that stage is made for Shakespeare, I would say. The Glen is truly a wonderful place. You are in a circle of redwood trees. You're in the middle, the fairy circle, they call it.
Yes. It's so beautiful. I mean, it's such an amazingly beautiful place to present Shakespeare. And this year in particular, the setting is so great because in As You Like It, we end up in the Forest of Arden. And so we created this really beautiful set this year, but it's very open. And the trees that have always been a part of the stage are really the scenery. I mean, the Glen is the scenery this year, and that's what's so amazing to be able to do this show and do it in a forest.
And so, Lydia, the show, as you stated, it started yesterday for the previews, July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And then the opening night is Saturday, July 5th.
Yes.
And it runs through August 10th.
It does.
As You Like It. And it's directed by Mark Rooker.
Mark Rucker, yes. Mm-hmm.
And he has been a part of, because Santa Cruz Shakespeare is a reincarnation, would you say, in some ways?
Yes.
Of the Shakespeare Festival that had been going on here for
32 years. We like to say that we are a year one festival with a 32-year history.
That's a great way of doing it. And I want to talk a little bit, after we discuss the next two plays that are going to be offered this season, this summer season of Santa Cruz Shakespeare. I want to talk a little bit about how, I mean, it was a lot of nail biting and a lot of on the edge of your seat kind of drama that Shakespeare would have totally appreciated, I'm sure.
Yes.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about the story of Santa Cruz Shakespeare.org, if you want to go there. And then next up, the next play that will be shown or presented, directed by Kirsten Brandt, is The Merry Wives of Windsor.
Yes, we're very excited to have the show. That show starts its previews on July the 13th. And opens on July the 17th. We did the Henriade, as we like to call it, Henry 4, parts 1 and 2, and then Henry 5. And in parts 1 and 2, you get the great privilege of getting to meet the character of Falstaff, who is probably one of the best beloved Shakespearean characters. And the story actually goes that Shakespeare made the decision that Falstaff would not be a part of Henry V, and there was such an outcry from the audiences that he wrote The Merry Wives of Windsor basically to give audiences one more stab at getting to appreciate the character of Falstaff. So Richard Ziman, who played Falstaff for us in Henry IV's Part 1 and 2, is back again playing the Fat Knight, as he likes to call himself, and he's brilliant. And this is such a fun, rollicking body romp. I think audiences are going to have a great time with it.
All right, Merry Wives of Windsor, and also in the Sinsheimer Stanley Festival Glen. Did I say that correctly, Lydia?
Yes, Sinsheimer
Stanley
Festival Glen, yes.
And again, that previews will be July 13th, 14th, and 15th, and the show runs through August 10th. And then we have what they call the Fringe Show.
Yes.
And this one is The Beard of Avon, and it's not a Shakespeare, but it's about Shakespeare.
It is about Shakespeare. It is. This is we call it the Fringe Show. Our interns, both the acting interns and the production interns, work so hard, and they work so many hours. And their reward for all of that, besides just getting to be a part of the festival and getting to work alongside professionals, is that they get their own show. And so that is the Fringe Show. It is The Beard of Avon by Amy Freed, who is a Bay Area playwright. And this show takes a very cheeky look at whether or not Shakespeare really wrote all of the plays that he said he did. And, of course, that's always been an ongoing discussion with people, but this is a very funny take and a very funny look at that theme. And that's 2 performances only, and that is July the 29th and August the 5th in the Glen. So come out, support these interns. They deserve that moment in the spotlight. They deserve just to have that moment where they get to take the entire stage to themselves.
And Lydia, this is directed by Steve Boyle.
Yes.
And I had the wonderful opportunity to see Amy Freed's show, The Beard of Avon, in San Francisco. And it's a madcap comedy full of iconic historical figures. The Earl of Oxford. I'm gonna out myself. Yes. I'm an Oxfordian myself.
Okay.
I think that the Earl of Oxford had quite a bit to do with Shakespeare and the oeuvre, the body. Sir Francis Bacon, who's also considered one of the people that might have ghostwritten with Shakespeare, and Queen Elizabeth also throws in some of her scribble.
A script she would like produced as well. Yes,
and so the Beard of Avon stars William Shakespeare. Basically.
Absolutely does. And, it's great to have Steve directing for us. He's one of the stories that we love about the festival. He started out as a directing intern some years ago for The Endgame. He then assistant directed Henry V last year next to Paul Mullen, and then this year's actually taking on a directorship himself. So we love that idea that people can come in, they can intern, they can assist, and they can kind of move forward in their career.
That's all right. Wonderful. And so, again, folks, we have As You Like It, directed by Mark Rooker. And we have The Merry Wives of Windsor, both by William Shakespeare, directed by Kirsten Brandt. And then we have The Fringe Show, The Beard of Avon, by Amy Freed, and directed by Steve Boyle. So these are beloved shows. Could you tell us a little bit of Lynn Bushfield about how As You Like It and The Merry Wives of Windsor were chosen for this season? Is there anything special?
There are. We wanted to do 2 comedies. We normally do a comedy and then either a history or a tragedy, and we thought for this season it would be very fun to have 2 comedies out in the Glen. So that was one of our choices. We certainly, a great deal of our decision to do The Merry Wives of Windsor had to do with bringing back Falstaff, because, again, he has been such a beloved character. And I think, Henry IV, Part 1 and 2, and Henry V are such amazing, great shows, but they're very heavy, and we felt like maybe the audience deserved just a little deep breath from those, and the ability, again, of course, to see Falstaff again. And then As You Like It, it's one of the most beloved Shakespearean plays. It's a lot of what's happened with the festival. It's about somebody who sort of leaves their home and goes into exile and learns something about themselves and about love and about their life, and sort of changes as a person based on this exile. And so we thought that was sort of an interesting comment on the festival, and also really wanted to honor the Glen, and what better way than to do As You Like It, where you're literally in a forest.
And there's a lot of cross-dressing. It's a really fun show.
There's wrestling, and there's a clown, and there's cross-dressing. It has it all.
And it has the wonderful quote, "All the world's a stage."
Yes,
from one very well known,
but maybe maybe one of the best known. Jaques is played by Alan Gilmore, who audiences saw in Bach at Leipzig, in 3 Musketeers, Henry IV Part 1. Brilliant actor. So happy to have him back, and to have him stand on that stage in the Glen and say those words is really a thrill.
You're listening to Artists on Art. I'm your host, Nada Milkovich. I'm speaking with Lydia Bushfield today about Santa Cruz Shakespeare. We're going to take a quick little break and come back and talk more about the dramatic story behind the scenes of Santa Cruz Shakespeare. Please stay tuned. Here you are, listening to KZSC Santa Cruz. This is Artists on Art. Lydia Bushfield is here today. She is the marketing director and props master of Santa Cruz Shakespeare. Santa Cruz Shakespeare is a reincarnation of a Shakespeare festival that happened for 32 years and now is starting again. It's been a very exciting and scary at times story. And Lydia, just tell us a little bit about how Shakespeare Play On helped create Santa Cruz Shakespeare, would you say?
Yeah, I think it's such a great story. When we found out about the closure last summer, we were all initially very sad to see something that we had worked so hard to build go away. And I remember Mike Ryan, a lot of us were very emotional, and Mike Ryan was not emotional, and he said, I'm not going to let it go away. There's no way that this festival is going away. And he just said, I'm going to make it happen. And he did, along with the help with Bill Richter and a lot of people that really worked their little fingers to the bone. But it was an amazing thing. We made a decision that we would come up with a budget for what it would take to have a festival this summer, that we would have a fundraising campaign, and if we could raise the money to forward fund the season, that we would indeed do a season. And so we went to the community at large and we said, here's the thing, we want to continue this, we want to have Shakespeare in Santa Cruz in the summer, and it was really up to the community to answer us. Is this something that's important to you? And the answer was a resounding yes. We made more money than we needed. And the really great thing about that is that we kept our budget exactly what we said it would be. We took all of the money that we made over that, everything that has come in as a donation since February the 1st, everything that we get in grants, everything that we get in ticket sales, every ticket you buy this summer actually goes to Forward Fund 2015. So one of the things that Mike Ryan likes to say is that we've thrown away the credit card and we've pulled out the debit card. And I think we've gotten a lot of national attention for this because I think there are a lot of theaters, sadly, that are closing and that are having a hard time. And often with theater, you build a show and you put it out there and then you hope you sell enough tickets. And we don't want to do that. We want to be able to go into every season and say, this is the money that we have to spend and this is what we'll do based on that money.
Fabulous model for a nonprofit.
For a nonprofit,
because
absolutely.
Santa Cruz Shakespeare is a nonprofit.
It is a nonprofit, yes. We have filed for our own 501c. That's a very long process, as you probably know. In the meantime, the Arts Council has been great to us. They've been our fiscal sponsor, so all of our donations have gone through them, which allows people to get the tax write-off, and also I think just to give people a comfort in donating, that there is this, place that you can donate and know that the money is going to us and going to the right place. So they've been really great to us, and we appreciate their fiscal sponsorship. But yes, we are forward funding ourselves, and we all feel very, very proud of that model.
And so Shakespeare Play On is this model?
Yes, Shakespeare Play On was basically the entity that came together and said, we're going to have this fundraising campaign and we are going to attempt to save the festival. And Shakespeare Play On is our producing company, if you will. And Shakespeare Play On then is producing Santa Cruz Shakespeare as the summer festival.
I see.
So it's one and the same, but our corporation, our nonprofit corporation, will be called Shakespeare Play On, and Santa Cruz Shakespeare being the festival. The festival.
And there is a board of directors, and this is all reformed, would you say?
Yes, it is a board of directors. Bill Richter, who has worked tirelessly and is our board chair at this point, has been on the board for quite some time. Jean Shimaguchi, there are several, Karen Sinsheimer, Audrey Stanley, who is our founding director of the last festival, who is still working with us very, very closely. So it's a lot of the same people that are working on the board. We have some new blood on the board, which is great. We also had this advisory committee that I thought was a very interesting thing. There were a lot of people that stepped forward and said, we'll do everything we can to help, including Sir Patrick Stewart and Olympia Dukakis, as well as some very large names within the community that have all come together as our advisory board, and we have them as a sounding board as we move forward.
Wonderful. This is just so wonderful. And you also have an interesting direction kind of going on. You have co-artistic directors.
We do. Marco Baricelli had been the artistic director for us since 2008, and it was actually, his contract was up and he was planning on moving on, even if no matter what, he had plans to move on. And then when this all happened, he really still wanted to be a part of it. Mike Ryan, who audiences have known, he has been a part of the festival for many, many years, a very beloved actor and has been a real face of the festival, stepped forward and agreed to be artistic director. So Marco Baricelli and Mike Ryan are co-artistic directing at the moment, which is great because Marco brings a lot of history and a lot of experience as an artistic director of the table, and Mike brings, I think, a lot of new energy and new thoughts and new feelings. And one of the great things about this, you don't always get this opportunity, and we've tried to look at this from every positive angle that we can. And one of the great positives is that it's easy to, if you've done something for 32 years, to just keep doing it. And this has really given us the opportunity to stop and look at every single thing and say, well, just because we've always done it that way, is that the best way? So it's great to kind of have this old guard and this new guard and everybody coming forward. And every single thing we're really stopping and saying, is this the way we want to continue forward? Is this the best thing for the festival?
So an opportunity, it's the cloud, the silver-lined cloud.
It is.
You had the things transforming and yet giving you the opportunity to change in a positive way. And this Shakespeare play on this idea of forward paying for your seasons as a way of creating a sustainable system.
Yes, absolutely.
It's brilliant and it's wonderful. And you can go to santacruzshakespeare.org and see a little bit of the story, but more so what's happening moving forward. And As You Like It is happening right now, folks. Last night was the first preview, July 1st. The second is tonight, and the third is tomorrow. And you can see the preview of As You Like It, directed by Mark Rooker, in the Festival Glen here at UCSC. It's a wonderful comedy that takes place in a forest. It's very easy to see it happening in the Glen. And then we have The Merry Wives of Windsor beginning July 13th and running through August 10th with previews July 13th, 14th, and 15th. And then we have The Fringe show, The Beard of Avon, and that is directed by Steve Boyle, and that's happening July 29th and August 5th only. Also a madcap comedy. So we've got 3 wonderful comedies playing this summer here for the Santa Cruz Shakespeare Festival.
The festival, yeah. And I think hopefully everybody's come before, but if you haven't, know that you can bring in a picnic and wine and whatever you want to drink, and you can have a reserved seating, or you can throw a blanket on the ground and you can eat and drink and enjoy the shows. And I think it's such a lovely way to see Shakespeare and such a lovely way to see.
Oh, it's wonderful.
To see a show.
Yeah. And so Santa Cruz Shakespeare lives on, and you can go to santacruzshakespeare.org and you can see if you want to help in this reincarnation.
That would be great. We need the community support, and we really feel like that we are a community a theater that was saved by the community, and we want to be a theater for the community. And so we would love any financial support you have, but we would love volunteers. We need people to usher. We need people. We can put you to work in a million different ways. So there's great on the website, again, there's great information about volunteering, and just come be a part of it.
And so, Lydia Bushfield, tell us, how many people would you say are involved in putting on a festival of this kind?
Well,
it's a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot, yeah. I mean, it really, when you start looking at, actors, technicians, directors, designers, front of house people, administrative staff, I mean, overall, there are probably easily about 150 people that are working to put this festival on. And there are so many moving pieces of it that, you probably don't realize seeing a show, which is great, because you shouldn't. You should just come and sit and enjoy. But it is a much more, I think it's a much more involved process than people probably realize.
Oh. Yeah, I can't even imagine just putting on one show, but putting on 3.
Yes, 3. And the Glen is such an amazing place to do a show, but it holds its challenges, and that's the thing. You are outdoors. It's like, how do you light it outdoors? How do you create the sound? How do you deal with costumes and the fact that we're in a forest and we're in duff and ladies are in white dresses? So just the wardrobe's job, and all the costumes all have to be carried out to the Glen every day, and then all have to be carried back. Like, things really have to come in and out, because things can't just stay out there. So it's the behind the scenes is pretty amazing about what it takes to put it on. And
the stage design and moving the stages around, and then you being the prop master, all the little pieces that are used in the plays.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we've had summers. There's probably a few fewer because of the nature of the shows, but we've had many summers out there where there's like 400 different props, and people probably don't really realize that when you're just seeing them coming and going. But there's like 400 different props and weapons and furniture. And I mean, it's just, the pieces. I'd asked Be Modern, our costumer, recently, like, how many pieces? And she said, when you start getting into, like, socks and pants and underwears and shoes and hats and belts and stuff, and there's like 500 pieces of costumes in these two shows. I mean, it is pretty amazing, really, what it takes to put it all together.
It's wonderful. Lydia Bushfield, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I really wanted to talk about this and celebrate Santa Cruz Shakespeare living on here in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, we could not be more thrilled. We are so excited about the season. We're excited that the community has backed us in this way, and we look forward to seeing everybody come out, see a show, come enjoy. I mean, the community really did make this happen, and we hope that they will come and reap the rewards of that by coming to see a show.
Wonderful. And that's happening now, folks. Go to santacruzshakespeare.org.